business. I think that this is obviously going to relate to other businesses, but since I've only grown a brow business, that's where my expertise lies, so I'm going to stay within my wheelhouse. So I think first and foremost, my number one recommendation is building a solid foundation in education. I think skills can be taught, obviously. It's a skill or a trade is our industry, and I think that I keep forgetting that I'm also filming. I'm like looking off into the distance. Anyways, I think that education is the core foundation to a good business. So I think that skill can be taught. We're in a trade, but I also think that like it's your skill is only as good as your education. Especially for like longevity purposes. So if you're in this for the long haul, like most of us are, this is what we need. So good education means that you're fully understanding not just what we've learned in state board. I feel like a lot of us when we're new, kind of are like, I just got to school, my state licensed me, I know everything, and we don't. We don't know anything. There's such the bare minimum that they teach us in beauty school and for that exam. And I feel like as the years go on, that exam gets less and less invasive or intensive, whatever you want to say. And we kind of lose that education, or we come out thinking that we're awesome and we know all this stuff. And you do know a lot, don't get me wrong, you know more than you did before going into it. But I think there's the gold and the really good stuff is post school education, so continued education. I definitely, everything that I use in my current business day to day is continued education. There's core values there that I learned in beauty school, like skin anatomy and sanitation, but even that I've learned repeatedly or like refreshed it regularly with trainings. So we all have to start somewhere. But I think the biggest thing is continuing your education while you're in beauty school or right after beauty school, and then just continuing from there. I think that doing regular continuing education, no matter how many years you've been in the industry, is pivotal. I think learning new skills every year is good for our brains and keeping our passion alive. So even if the education you're taking isn't necessarily like super duper directly related to your business, like I took a copywriting course one time. I've taken a poetry course. I've taken, courses that don't necessarily perfectly align with my business, but the copywriting course, was pivotal for like building out my website, writing captions, little bits and pieces, feeling comfortable writing oh my god, clearly not for locating words, but a pitch or like some sort of an article. Like I have an article coming out. I don't know why that didn't come to my brain first, but it taught me so many like core value things that was really important. And now I see it coming through and I'm using it so much in my business. So it didn't directly relate to brows specifically, but I use it every day. So I think education is a huge part of building and growing, and obviously just having a firm solid foundation with no cracks, and then continuing that healthy foundation by continued education. Next, for building a brow business is obviously making some income. So I think that at the beginning, there's no reason to really niche yourself down. I think if you're fresh out the schoolyard, I don't know why I said it like that. Anyways, if you're fresh out of beauty school, post grad, or even before you get your license, don't narrow yourself to like a super tight niche right off the bat, especially if you're fresh out of beauty school or even before you're licensed. I think dabbling in a lot of different areas of the industry or trying different jobs and faucets that fall under the umbrella of your license is a good way to narrow down what you actually want to do. I feel like sometimes when you're going solo, especially if you're going solo right out of beauty school, you have this long menu of like cajillion services that you offer, and it's a lot to keep up with. I feel like there's so much that we can do within our license, so it's super tempting to want to do all of it, because the more you offer, the more money you're going to make, right? which I'm not saying not to, but I feel like most of us get into the beauty industry for like a specific passion, and I think that's where your focus should definitely remain. But if you have multiple passions coming out of it, I think you should try to kind of approach all of them and see what you like. I went to beauty school to come out of it an esthetician solely practicing in skin. I don't do that at all anymore. I solely work with brows. So that's what I mean. I feel like if I had gotten out of beauty school and gone straight into skincare, which I kind of did, and I'll get into the nitty gritty of my story later, I'm sure, but I went right in and I didn't know what I was doing. And I think that if I would have either kept doing that, I would have definitely gotten out of the industry and I would have gone to something else. I don't think I would have stayed. And then second, I think if I would have gone into an immediate role at like any business, my own or otherwise, just offering skincare and nothing else, I don't know that I would have stuck with it. I mean, even in the small span that I did offer facials, I definitely got, I don't want to say bored because like I absolutely adore my clientele that I was working with when I was like towards the end of my, like when I was really in the thick of my facial career. I sat with like this really nice pocket of clientele and it was so hard for me to let them go. But I also had the other 3/4 of my business was all brows. So I was already kind of fulfilling that goal, so I think it let me hold on for a little bit longer. Now, personally, I feel like it is important that I had that building block to where I am now, but also I'm so curious what it would have been like had I found my like love of brows sooner and like where would I be now. So I feel like there's pros and cons to every path, and I think that your own journey is your own journey and you should do whatever feels right, of course. But if I could do it all over again, I would have maybe been a little bit more tight on finding out what I truly loved and then focused on that one thing instead of going and doing a million different things and then eventually finding what I loved. And even when I found threading, I kind of fought it a little bit and was like demanding that we do facials. And then like I loved it, but also I was like, this is difficult splitting my focus. And then I went out on my own with I guess at that point probably half and half brow facials, and I feel like even that maybe is generous towards the facial side. But I think that if I would have just really stayed true to the brows, I feel like the reason I held on to facials when I left my job and went solo was really out of fear. And like I really was nervous that I wasn't going to be able to make it with just brows alone. I think there was maybe a little bit of rebellion of like I want to do everything my own way, and that is again I feel like why I'm an entrepreneur to begin with is like I think a little bit of all of us don't play well with others, and the fact of like being told what to do and like not getting to just like go ahead and do things your own way. And so I had a lot of that, and that's why I ultimately ended up solo, which I think was a great move. But I'm curious what it would have been like had I really stuck to my guns and just focused on skin or just focused on brows. I feel like if I would have just focused on skin, I would have left, but you know, I feel like I just went off on a little tangent there. Circling back. Fresh out of beauty school, don't niche down too hard because you might end up doing the opposite of what you thought you were going to. You might fall in love with a different path. Once you find the thing that you're super duper passionate about, or you narrow it down to a couple different things, then get really serious and like really push your education. I think throughout, even when you're sussing out exactly what you want to do, you should continue your education in a more broad, general way, like gaining experience working at different places. I still love the fact that I worked in a bunch of different faucets of the industry before I landed on brows because I feel like it built a lot of different skills. Even like my jobs prior to the beauty world, I feel like every job taught me a lesson in its own way, so I feel like that was still pivotal. And I gained experience. I gained customer service experience with no matter which way you look at it, we're doing customer service or working with the public, you need to know how. Oh, this camera drives me bonkers. It keeps going in and out. My camera quality is going to be garbage. Sorry, guys. But the good juices are here with the audio, hopefully. So we're talking core foundation values is good education and experience. So like bottom layer, good education, continuing education, then we build on experience, and then we are focusing on finding our niche. Once we find our niche, then we go even deeper in the education, and all the while finding clientele. So I think that's another really big hot topic of how do I do it. It's tricky, it's hard, sometimes it's easier than other times. I personally went the route of working for somebody else and building a clientele there, building my skill and building my clientele and building my name in my town, which is not always an option for everybody. But when I was starting out, social media wasn't quite what it was now. So there is like a benefit to each. I think that social media is super duper important just for a kind of a variety of things. Social media is a great way to showcase who you are as a person, your personality. Ultimately, the clientele we want are people that enjoy, like, we want people that mesh well with us. Like, you don't want to be, nobody wants to come to an esthetician or a beauty professional and not vibe. Like, you want the vibe to be right. So, ultimately, showing your personality on your social media is going to help what am I trying to say? Attract the right clientele and the right people. So you want to find your people. So, um, social media is good for that. Remaining on topic. It's also really good because I feel like it's a nice way to have like almost your portfolio. I know that's so super old school, but it truly is. It's a place to showcase your skill. It's also a really nice way to showcase like your growth. Like, I love looking back at old posts or old before and afters of Brows and then looking at what I'm offering now. I feel like we get very wrapped up in comparison in the social media world, so it's kind of nice to have that little bit to remind you of how far you've come, and it's a nice little like lookbook of your journey and your career. It's also kind of like your first handshake, I guess. It's kind of like your first introduction with your clients. So if they happen to find you that way, there's a variety of ways to find clients, but I feel like a large portion of them do come from our social medias. Um, it's kind of like your elevator pitch. So as far as if you're the right person for them, those things, the elements that you want to attract an offer are what you should be advertising for. So if brows are your thing, you should have before and after showing your skill level. You should have what you offer, like a breakdown of like literally my menu, or like my service menu, or this is what you can come in and get done, or you can pin these things to the top of your social media. I am also going to premise this very, very hard with, I am not a social media expert, I am not a content creator, I am an esthetician. So all of my recommendations have come from outside sources and social media managers. So this is all secondhand knowledge. I urge you, when the time is right and the budget allows, to hire help, because every big push I've made on social media has come from people who literally like breathe social media. So I will say that outside help is super duper helpful when you're able to, but when you're not able to, the main thing you need to focus on is educating your clients, showcasing what you offer, and filling and not speaking to them like they're a professional. They don't care about like the brands that you carry or the chemical makeup within the lamination. I talk about that stuff because I'm also an educator, so like I want to show my skill level. My clients like to watch it, but the clients that are watching it and cheering me on have been seeing me for like 7 years or something. So like they're just cheering me on and my business on. They're not like coming to me because I know the different chemicals that break down the hair structure within the lamination system. So keep that in mind when you're making the post. Make sure that you're directing it to your ideal client. You want to be talking about like what the difference is between different tints, they would be good for. Like lamination is great for this person. Lamination's great for, redirection of the hairs, for someone who uses a lot of brow gel, somebody with brow hairs that stick straight out or straight down, somebody looking for more of a fuller brow, somebody who likes the fluffy look, the messy undone look. Be specific on like the look that they're going for, because that's sometimes what will come in with inspo photos. Like your inspo photo that you sent me would be really great if we did lamination. You would really be able to achieve your goal like that. Somebody wanting instant fullness, like you can recommend a brow serum, but they're not going to see results for a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. So if they want it tomorrow, lamination might be the way to go. They can get an instant boost and a lot of volume. Somebody with really light hair and wanting like a bolder look, or doesn't want to use makeup, tint. So like we need to find the problem, and then you get to be the solution. You also need to have your location, your face, your name, very, very basic information on your public account that you're using to attract clients. Nobody wants to book with somebody who they don't know. Like Megs is what my name is. The Eyebrow Goddess is my business name. People know who they're booking with when they go to book with me. They also need to know how to get there. Maps. Like you need to have your location on there. They need to know where the salon is. It's double points if you have like a little blurb of it on your feed, or like pinned or in a highlight or something like that. Your hours, how to book with you. I feel like payment doesn't need to be listed necessarily on your social media, but there should be links available for them to find your booking site that does have that information, because sometimes people are budgeting and they want to know that. Especially if you're a solo artist, there's absolutely no reason for you to be doing all of your booking by hand. That's crazy time consuming. Online booking systems are brilliant nowadays and super helpful. They can also help you retain like credit cards on file for cancellations or no-shows. They can help you with like forms, consent forms, and things like that before the appointments, to make sure they're a good candidate, and to like have them sign off on, certain situations, patch test waivers or forms, etc. You can keep really good client records. You can block clients if they no-show or do something shady. Not to call out a client or anything, but I'm just saying that it's nice to have these tools in your toolbox. So that's really important for you as a business owner, and setting really firm boundaries with your clientele, like a card on file or a cancellation policy. So getting clients in the door might look like offering your first offering at a lower discounted rate. When I worked at my previous business, we were charging $25 for brow for me within the business, so I wasn't making all of that. I was still commission. So when I left, I went out on my own and I was only charging $15. So I wasn't making very much money, probably less than I was making with the business. And I did that so that I could continue and entice people to come over and follow me, and I wanted to find new clientele. Slowly, as my clientele built, I upped my prices. I'm now at $25, which could be higher probably, but thankfully, I have other services and other offerings that allow me to keep that price point low. And the number one reason I'm able to keep that price point low is because I'm an eyebrow threader. So thread is a very low cost overhead, and I have a very minimal amount of waxing clients. And most of my other services, like if you come in and get laminated, you're getting threaded. So that's an automatic way that I'm not, using more product in those situations. And that keeps my overhead low for a high ticket service. So, slow growth of your prices is a really good way to slowly grow your clientele. And as you phase into a higher cost or higher price point, you can phase out the clientele that might not be within your budget. They can go find another practitioner in their budget, and they'll, you know, kind of start the same cycle for them. You find the clientele that fits really well with you, is comfortable with the budget, or they continue to grow with you, whatever it may be. So I think that's like a healthy way to build your brow business and gain your clientele, starting low and then building from there. Don't start too low, never undersell yourself. It's still a business, you still need to make an income. But this is like a good thing to do, like maybe while you're still working part-time when you're able to subsidize your income. And then as you get busier and busier and you're able to back off your other income streams, you can up your fee, build your business, go from there. More clientele, upping your fee, you're going to be making more money, then you can drop off your secondary income. Keeping your overhead low is obviously very important. I don't want to touch on too much financial recommendations because that's, again, not what I do. I'm an esthetician, I'm a brow artist. My goal is to help you with brows and connecting with your clients. So segue into client connection. I think this is another really, really pivotal part of growing a brow clientele is connecting with your clients. I think that I hear often from my clients that there's like a lack of listening. Like, why are we not listening to our clients during the consultations? You don't have to be a skincare expert to offer consultations or listen during the consultations. We need to approach brows the same way we approach skin. And I think that we need to allow our clients to be heard. And if you're not sure what they're saying, ask more questions. I think there's like, oh, yeah, no, I definitely know what you want with your brows when you say you want them to be fluffy but thin. No, I don't. I'm going to ask more questions. Do you mean this when you say fluffy? Do you mean that? Do you have a photo? Can you show me a photo? There's so many ways to minimize issues when it comes to shaping like a new client and you don't know what they're looking for. Also, why are we removing too much hair to begin with? I think that there's so much of us that want to be immediately perfect. I've been in the brow world for 7 years. I still will shape a new brow and be really, really cautious with the amount of hair removal that I'm doing. Check in with that client and then talk it out. Maybe they want to adjust it. Maybe they like it like that. I don't know, and I would rather go slow and steady until we find their shape than remove too much hair and be like, fuck, I guess let it grow out and I'll see you next time. That client's not coming back. I would rather them be like, oh wow, they like literally wanted to check in with me. She waited and didn't just take all the hair off. She wanted to see if that's actually what I was looking for. And they love you for that. You show that you are qualified by asking and checking in with your client. This is the person handing you their hard-earned money to get a result they are looking for. You, as the expert, get to do it. You get to suss out how you're going to do it however you want to. But I think the quickest way is by having a thorough conversation consultation. So that means back and forth, questions being asked and answered, and then working towards what the goal is. If they don't have any goal, they don't care, they say do whatever, free reign, do your thing. But that's when mapping comes into play. That's when using your skill level for what would look best and what your recommendation should be based on solid education. Remember the foundation we talked about, really good education and continued education should then be what tells you to recommend or offer for your client. So, but nowadays we have social media, we have TikTok, we have all these different things where people are learning about these different offerings that we have and they know more than ever. And so sometimes they come in with a very specific like idea or inspiration. So conversation, listening to what they're saying and asking them questions is the best way to get to the goal together. Also, I think that when you're doing it like this, it's a really nice way for you to connect with the client you're opening the door, you're kind of like breaking the ice and things like that. First time appointments can be awkward. Another way to make first time appointments less awkward is also by being very active and showing your personality on social media, which I talked about earlier. So if you're showing your face a lot and you're talking in your stories and you're showing the inside of your studio and you're showing what it looks like to do an appointment or before and after an appointment, or whatever, if you're showing them their aftercare kits, blah blah blah, you're showing them a lot of behind the scenes and things like that, and you and your personality and how you talk, they're gonna come in, they're gonna look you right in the eyes and be excited and know exactly where to go. So I think that's a really big part of it. I have tons of new clients that walk into the salon that I work in, look right at me and be like, oh hey, that's what I'm looking for, because of my presence on social media. So making sure that you're connecting with your clients however which way that means, social media, in person with them, making their experience in your studio really comfortable, are all really key elements to not only building that like trust and connection with the client, but it also helps to build the relationship that starts to blossom and bloom. And I think that within that, the trust, the connection, and comfortability, them feeling safe in your space, also in turn leads to them leaving you nice reviews, telling their friends about you, sharing your business with, friends and family, like I just said. I guess I said that twice, but whatever. This is going to lead that client into talking about you. They're going to be excited, not only from you offering them killer whatever, brows, lashes, skincare, whatever, but also just like offering them a comfortable, safe space. So connecting with the client, creating a comfortable space, and building trust are always to not only get the client in the door, but to keep them coming back, because ultimately it is so much harder to keep a client than it is to get a new client, which sounds backwards, I know. But you can get like 10 new clients just by like doing a promo, run a promo, bam, you got new clients. Are those clients going to come back next time when they have to pay full price? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. A lot of the times when you're doing lots of promos and lots of discounts, you're discounting your work and you're attracting a bargain buyer. We don't want bargain buyers. We want people that truly connect with what we represent in our business, our skill that we're offering, and the results they're looking for that we can provide, and to build a relationship with these people in a long-term way. So discount attracts the wrong type of people when that's what we're trying to build. So all of these things come together. I don't want to drag this out too much longer. If I need to do another one and refresh on some other elements, I can, but ultimately building a brow business, I believe, is having a very solid foundation in your education and skill, growing that social media following from the get, client care and consultation and connection, that whole relationship, and knowing and targeting the ideal customer you truly want, and not narrowing yourself too early on in your career. I think that just about sums it up. But if there's something I missed or you have questions or anything like that, make sure to follow me at BROWducation on Instagram. You can shoot me a DM there. Follow us on Spotify, and I will see you next week for Tarot Tuesday.